approach to economics. Margaret Thatcher gave us Thatcherite economic policy, and her US contemporary gave us Reaganomics. The Japanese Prime Minister, Shinzo Abe, who has presided over an unorthodox approach to the Japanese economy, gave birth to Abenomics. The affectation of personalized branding probably originates with Rogernomics, used to describe the radical change of direction taken by Roger Douglas when he was finance minister for the New Zealand Labour government in the early 1980s. But even before this recent fashion, the association of a particular approach to economics with political leaders is well established. The economic transformation of modern China is attributed to Deng Xiaoping. Before that, the post-war German Wirtschaftswunder, or economic miracle, is credited to the work done by the then-Chancellor Ludwig Erhard. D Roosevelt's New Deal represented a decisive break with the economic policies which preceded it, even if it was not, as often claimed, an early example of Keynesian economics. The economic tradition in the US of strong federal government intervention to protect domestic industry has long been described as Hamiltonian. The British commitment to free trade has been commonly attributed to Robert Peel and his abolition of the Corn Laws. Populist economic movements can acquire their own ism. Peronism has been a dominant theme in Argentine life for most of the last 80 years. These examples raise a bigger question about the links between economics and politics, between economic policies and the politicians who gave effect to them. The history of economics is commonly treated as the history of economists and their ideas, rarely as the history of their application and the politicians who applied them. Such an approach is limiting at best. I was prompted to write this book by the experience of having spent over 50 years at the interface between politics and economics. As a British MP, then Cabinet Minister, preceded by years as a candidate, campaigner and pamphleteer, and as an economist carrying out research or teaching economics in universities and think tanks, or advising companies and governments on economic matters, I saw enough of each to want to understand the connections better. Specifically, I wanted to understand the politicians who brought about some of the big economic transformations in modern history. The adoption in practice of the idea of free trade, the use of government intervention to support industrialization, the attempts to counter mass unemployment, the reconstruction of economies destroyed by war, the creation of new models of capitalism, such as social democracy or state capitalism, the attempts to achieve rapid economic development in poor economies, the attempt to create a communist economic model, and laterally the attempts to dismantle communism. I am interested in the key political figures who drove these changes, what motivated them, which economists or schools of economic thought they drew upon, and how they found them. But more broadly, I want to highlight a forgotten history of the exchange and application of ideas which happen at the nexus of politics and economics. From time immemorial, organized societies have had their politics, and have also been concerned with economic questions around trade, monetary exchange, and increasing wealth for personal gain or glorification or wider social benefits. Some embryonic trade theory was recorded in ancient Greece. Genghis Khan is said to have had an early understanding of globalization and a borderless world, though it is difficult to judge this claim in the absence of any written source. Medieval monarchs and Chinese emperors alike had rules and principles governing the issue of coinage, the operation of markets for essential consumer goods and payment for labour. Some of the standard texts of the history of economic thought trace modern thinking about economic matters to 17th and 18th century Britain and pre-revolutionary France. However, in this book, I have decided to begin around the end of the 18th century and the start of the 19th century, when there was a step change in the sophistication of economies with the emergence of more complex, industrializing societies, and when recognizably modern democratic institutions became apparent. Politics and economics converged.